Who let her in here? She looks like she came to serve, not to celebrate. The bride's voice cut like glass, and laughter followed like a cruel echo. Amara's cheeks burned as dozens of eyes turned, stripping her dignity in seconds. She sat frozen, every whispered insult slicing deeper, the weight of shame pressing her into the chair. The bride smirked, basking in her power, certain she had reduced Amara to nothing. But what she didn't know was that her cruelty had just lit the fuse to her own undoing. Welcome, story lovers! Where are you watching from? Hit the like button and drop your city name in the comments so we can see how far our story travels. It was a bright morning filled with celebration. The garden shimmered with white silk drapes and roses, the kind of wedding people dreamed of. Guests moved about in elegant dresses and suits, laughter floating through the air like music. Among them, quietly seated near the back, was Amara, a young black woman in a modest dress, her hands folded and eyes that tried to take in the beauty around her without drawing attention to herself. She wasn't there for glamour. She was there because she cherished her family, valuing connection over appearances. Amara's life had never been wrapped in luxury. She had grown up in a working-class neighborhood where every achievement was hard-won. Her clothes were simple, her jewelry nearly non-existent, but her presence carried dignity. To her, the wedding was more than an event. It was a glimpse of joy, a reminder that love could be celebrated despite life's hardships. Yet, even in her quiet admiration, a shadow lingered. There was something about gatherings like these, where wealth and status spoke louder than kindness, that always made her feel exposed. The bride, elegant in her glittering gown, moved like royalty through the crowd. Every head turned, every camera followed. To her, appearances were everything. She carried herself with the authority of someone used to admiration, but with it came sharp judgment. When her gaze landed on Amara, sitting silently at her table, her dress plain and unassuming, a flicker of disdain crossed her face. No words were exchanged yet, but the tension was already alive, silent but piercing. Amara could feel it, the weight of being different, of not fitting the unspoken rules of belonging in such spaces. What she didn't know was that her presence at this wedding would soon ignite a storm. In a matter of moments, the beauty of the day would clash with an ugly truth, and the celebration would take a turn no one expected. The music swelled as the bride made her grand entrance, her gown trailing like a wave of diamonds. Applause filled the air, and for a moment, the atmosphere sparkled with unity. But unity was fragile here, and it cracked the instant the bride's eyes found Amara again. With a smile that carried more venom than warmth, she leaned toward a group of her bridesmaids and whispered. Laughter rippled quietly across the table, but the sound carried, sharp enough to cut. Amara felt the sting. She tried to focus on the ceremony, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. But whispers grew louder, glances became stares. The bride moved, closer, making her disapproval no secret at all. Finally, as though unable to hold her tongue any longer, she spoke words that sliced through the air like a blade cloaked in silk. She remarked on Amara's dress, calling it unsuited for such a refined event. Her tone dripped with mockery, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. A hush fell across the tables as eyes turned toward the quiet young woman seated in the back. Heat rose in Amara's chest, not from shame, but from the crushing weight of humiliation. She wanted to disappear, to fold herself so small no one could see her. Yet something deeper within urged her to hold still, to endure. She had been here before, in classrooms where she was overlooked, in stores where she was followed, in conversations where her words were dismissed. This was not new, but it was crueler, because it unfolded on a day meant to celebrate love. The bride pressed on, her words growing bolder. She called Amara unworthy, suggesting she must have come out of pity or mistake. Laughter broke out again, this time more open, more cutting. Amara's cheeks burned, but her silence only fueled the mockery. The bride thrived on the attention, each cruel word a performance for her guests. And yet, even as the cruelty spread, Amara remained calm, her posture firm. There was a quiet strength in her that unsettled some, though they could not name it. The room began to shift. Some guests exchanged uncomfortable looks, unsure whether to laugh or stay silent. A few whispered among themselves, questioning the bride's tone. But the bride, emboldened by her own arrogance, continued. In her mind, this was her stage, her moment, and no one would question her. Amara's heart pounded. She wondered if she should leave, retreat into the safety of anonymity. Yet something rooted her to her seat. Her instincts told her the moment was not finished, that something was about to break open, and she was right. Because just as the bride prepared another cutting remark, a voice from the front interrupted the cruelty. A deep, commanding voice, one that carried respect without trying. The groom's father had turned his head, his eyes locking onto Amara with startling recognition. In that instant, the air shifted. The music, the laughter, the whispers, all seemed to fade into silence. Guests leaned forward, sensing something. Unexpected was about to unfold. The bride froze, her confidence faltering. Amara, still seated, could only wonder what this recognition meant, and why the man of such stature looked at her as if she was not just a guest, but someone far more critical. The groom's father rose slowly, his eyes never leaving Amara. The chatter dissolved into uneasy silence as his voice filled the garden, calm yet unshakable. "What are you doing?" he asked the bride, his tone carrying the weight of authority. Confusion spread through the crowd. The bride stammered, caught off guard, but before she could answer, he stepped forward and spoke words that struck like thunder. "She is not just a guest," he declared firmly. "Amara is my goddaughter. She is family." The revelation rippled through the room like a storm tearing through still waters. Gasps echoed from every corner, and the bride's face, drained of color. The groom's father approached Amara, his hand resting gently on her shoulder with unmistakable affection. In that moment, the hierarchy of the wedding collapsed. The woman who had been mocked for her simplicity was suddenly revealed as someone held in the highest regard. The bride's smile vanished, replaced by panic and shame. She had insulted the very person closest to the man she was about to marry. Guests whispered fiercely, some shaking their heads, others glaring at the bride with open disgust. The groom himself looked torn between anger and disbelief, his jaw tight as he processed the humiliation unfolding before everyone. Amara sat frozen, overwhelmed by the sudden shift. For once, she was not invisible, not overlooked. The cruelty aimed at her had been exposed for what it truly was. The bride had crossed a line she could never retreat from. Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments. The atmosphere hung heavy after the revelation. What had been a celebration of love moments earlier was now a mirror reflecting pride, cruelty, and truth. The bride stood frozen, her glittering gown offering no shield against the glares of her guests. Every word she had spoken against Amara now echoed back with shame, amplified by the knowledge that she had scorned someone her new family held dear. The groom's father did not raise his voice again, but he didn't need to. His hand on Amara's shoulder was enough. It was a gesture that spoke louder than all the insults combined: respect, belonging, and acknowledgement. Amara, who had walked into the event quietly, trying not to be seen, now carried a presence impossible to ignore. The bride attempted to recover, forcing a smile, but her mask was gone. People whispered openly, some turning their backs on her. What was meant to be her perfect day had transformed into a lesson that would be forever etched in her memory. The groom, too, had changed in those moments, his eyes no longer adoring, but heavy with doubt. Love built on arrogance could not withstand such an ugly truth. For Amara, the moment was not about revenge. It was about visibility. For once, the girl who was ridiculed for her simplicity was recognized for her worth. The sting of humiliation still lingered, but it was tempered by a quiet pride. This story is more than one wedding. It's a reflection of countless moments where prejudice hides beneath elegance, where cruelty disguises itself as confidence. And it leaves us to wonder, how many times will people be judged by their appearance before the world finally learns to see the heart first? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories and new videos.